Hey there, Bill Hawthorn here. 21 years I've been investing in real estate. I call myself a real estate entrepreneur. Full time. Never used a bank once. Talked to thousands of sellers, have bought hundreds of properties. And I'm here to tell you that my experience is going to help you today. And here's why. Could you imagine giving somebody $10, getting one document signed that's a page, maybe 2 pages long, depending on what state you're in, and making $18,000 6 weeks later? It's exactly what I did my first time I did this. So if you're watching this video for the very first time, just go to the bottom, or you just met me, just go to the bottom of this video or in the YouTube comment section and click on the link, because I have a series of videos that I've done, 10 of them actually, where I show you all these different types of strategies. But if you're in that series and you're watching this video because you're in my email course already, you would have seen this thing that we call an option. Works just like the stock market. You can buy for very little money the rights to buy and sell a property. So you buy the rights to buy and sell property. And I show you that in my other videos, so I'm not going to cover that today, but here's the important thing I'd like to cover today. The option. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a couple of clips. One clip I did in a meetup where I actually show you how to use the option agreement. And I also have another clip that will show you the math. Actually, we'll do the math video first so you can see how the math works. And then I'll show you the example. It probably would be better if we did it that way. Okay? So what I did is I had a seminar that I charged a bunch of money for, and I had several people there, and I took a clip out of that seminar to show you the math of how an option agreement works. Now, if you're on my planet, we call it Bill's Planet, or Bill's Kingdom, whichever way you want to say it, there are 7 core real estate strategies that I use. This is the second one, and we will be covering the other 5 as we move through these email days, because I put one in each day of an email so you can absorb them and take notes. Okay? This is a high power course. This is something that I used to charge thousands for, and I'm giving pieces and parts of it. You're not going to get every little last thing, down to the contracts and all that stuff, but you will get the concept so you understand how real estate works, not the way you think. Okay? So let's flip over to this this clip I have for you on the math, and then we'll come back. We'll chat for a couple minutes, and then we'll go to the next clip that I have for you. Okay? So grab some paper and pencil, because you're going to want to take notes on the math. All right? So here we go. Let's watch. Good. Options. You ready? 90%. Too many cigars today, Peter. 90%. How much equity do you have? Good. So is there much room? I just explained to these folks over here that if you sell for 100%, how much does it cost you? 10 or 12%, right? So do we have enough? Maybe, maybe not. You're close. An option is very simple. I don't use them like I used to. When the market was really expensive, I used to use them all the time. If the property is worth $100K and you owe $90K, You could come along and say to this owner, I'll pay you $90K. Will you do it? Yup, I want out. You sign one piece of paper, give the guy $10 or $100. I give 10, Peter likes 100. Right? Oh, you're down to 20? He says, I got to feel good about it, Bill. You do an option agreement, one piece of paper. It says, when I bring a seller to this property, you will close and give me a good deed or a clear deed. Okay? Often, I will tell the seller, it's okay if you go market this property on your own. You want to go hire Wanda? Go ahead. I know I can kick Wanda's butt and sell it before her. Not Wanda particularly. But if Wanda does sell it, you got to give me a written notice within 7 days so I stop marketing it. No, because by me giving the $10 or the $100, I just bought equity in the property. You have to give consideration. You have to give money. You could give $1. It buys equity into the property. You're buying equity. So now you're a part owner of the property, legally. Yeah. So you go sell the property for how much money? Pick it. 92, 95, 98, 110. And what do you get to keep? Anything over 90. Unless, of course, you do the deal that I did. And the guy was in Meriden, and the guy was pissed off at me, you know. He got to the closing table and found out I was making $18,000, and he didn't like that. And we had to go out in the parking lot, and I had to write him a check for $5,000 for him to get to sign the paperwork. But I still made 13 grand for $100. We go down options. Okay. So I have a question for you. Any one of you, or all of you, do we need a hard money lender yet? Do we need a private money lender yet? Do we need money down? Do we need to check our credit? You need $10. Go Wanda. So let me ask you this question. The slot deal alone, I'm telling you, if you guys just left here and understood the slot deal, you could make a living just on those. I mean, if you could do one of those a month and made 8 or 10 grand, wouldn't that be worth it? You're going to work for it. Oh, you're going to work for it. And you're not going to make it the first month. But once you start filling a pipeline, and if that's all you did was slot deals, which I strongly don't agree with, but if you did just that, how much money could you make? And oh yeah, by the way, Wanda, if you were given $10 deposits, how many houses could you buy? A few, right? At $10 deposits. And no credit, no loans, nothing in your name, except Wanda helped me. The only thing that's going to be in your name are the testimonials or the success stories. That's it. Say it again? That's right. People you help. Isn't it a wonderful business? You go in someone's house that can't sell a house, and you help them sell their house. Then you go find someone that can't buy a house, and you help them buy a house. And you make money doing this, helping people. Yeah.
Is it okay to sign an option if they have like one? Is there something?
It's a really good question. So here's the answer. Oh, he asked, is it okay to sign an option if they have a realtor? It depends on who comes first. If you come first, you just tell them, if they sign on a realtor, just tell the realtor that you have an option and that they have to exclude that option. They won't like it, but some realtors will do it. Actually, the realtor will do it, the broker probably won't like it. If they already have a realtor, no, I wouldn't suggest it. Well, go talk to a realtor and see what they'll say, but I doubt they'll let you.
You should do that before you get a realtor because it gives you a trick. Because you're signing an exclusive agreement. If you turn around and sell it, I'm entitled to a commission.
Right. And in a court of law, because I've been in court, she's partially right. But in a court of law, she has to prove to the court that she brought the seller to the table. If she can't prove that she brought the seller to the table, she's not getting any money. But let me tell you, it costs lots of thousands of dollars to do that in a courtroom. Don't get yourself in that position. It cost me 60 grand. And I negotiated it down to 20 after 2 years because I had a lien on a piece of commercial property. And I'm sorry, I said 60. I'm sorry, that's not the number. It cost me 30 grand. And I negotiated it down to, I think, 10 or 8. It took me 2.5 years doing just what she said. I won. But I ended up losing anyways. It wasn't worth it. I should have just, I shouldn't have done it. And it was my own, it was stupid. Right? Incredible, right? So that's the math. Now let's go over to the whiteboard and the meetup I did. And I have a little bit of a surprise for you in this video too. So just hang tight for a couple minutes. It's not very long, but I'm going to go over something most people don't talk about in real estate. And I'm going to keep you in suspense. So I'll talk to you about it when we get back after this clip. Okay? So hang tight. Take notes. It's important to take notes. This is valuable information you're getting for free. So don't consider it not valuable. It's very valuable. It just so happens I'm a crazy guy and giving it to you for free. So take notes. All right, here's the clip. And let's sign it for an option agreement. So here it says an option agreement, and this loan to value is a big difference, right? So if he can give the property to you for 90 cents on a dollar and leave you 10% in equity, watch what happens. So first of all, let's talk about cost to sell. So anybody that has a house and they go to a realtor or do anything like that, here are the numbers. It's going to cost you 5 to 6% for a realtor. And if you don't use a realtor, it's going to cost you that for marketing. Because here's what happens with for sale by owner people. The reason why 88% of them go to a realtor for sale by owners is because they don't spend this money to market the property. You need to get 100 to 125, 130 people to look at your ad. You need to get 20 or 30 people through the house to get anywhere from 1 to 5 offers. And the other thing is when for sale by owners do this, they don't answer the phone. They don't get 20 or 30 people through the house, and they don't get the 1 to 5 offers. So no matter what, you're spending 5 or 6%. Then you'll spend 3% for negotiating. So if you go on the MLS and you look at on the MLS, any realtor could do this, how much the houses were listed for and how much they closed for, you're going to find an average number of 3%. That's your negotiating fee. How many, up until COVID, which is an unusual time, how many people you know go to a house and want to pay full asking price? Up until COVID, it never happened. It was unusual. When there's a shortage of, and the reason why COVID was different is because people didn't want the public to walk through their house and get ill, right? Now, I don't want to get into my personal life, but some of you know me well. In September of this year, 2021, I got COVID pneumonia, and I was hospitalized in an ICU unit for 2 weeks and almost died. And I have the records to show it to you. And if some of you have been around for a while, you'll know that. Do you think I want somebody to come through my house to try to sell my house and end up in that position? No. So what happened is 1 week there was, I averaged about between we'll say about 130 to 150 houses a week on for sale by owner sites, down to 15 within a few weeks. People just stopped listing their houses. They didn't want anybody to go through them. So that alone drove the market up. And it hasn't really recovered since then. It's starting to recover now. But that's why COVID was different. I mean, if you got 20 people that have money to buy a house and only one house, it elevates the price of the house. So nowadays, this is coming back to normal. I just talked to a couple of my realtor buddies the last couple of days. They said it's coming back to normal. But for a long time, it wasn't. Then you have 3% for, I'm going to call it bribe money. Its real name is repairs. So here's what happens. Your seller puts a house on the market and they find a buyer. And the first thing that happens is the buyer hires a third-party company to come in and give them the real scoop on the condition of the house. That's called an
Inspection.
Inspection. Thank you. So they come in and they inspect the house, right? Now, suppose the house was built in 1980 and you're selling this thing in 2021. Is it fair to say that there's different code laws, like code restrictions in 1980 than there are now? Like, for example, out back on the deck, the runners that go down on the deck railing are supposed to be 6 inches apart in today's code, and yours are 9 inches apart. Now the inspector is going to say it's not in code, you got to fix that. Or is it possible that I don't know, your furnace is 20 years old, so they're going to tell you to replace the furnace. The point is that they need to justify their $400 fee. That used to be $100, now it's $400. They need to justify that fee. So what they do is they find all these code violations and they nitpick the house apart. And a vast majority of those repairs don't need to be done. But here's what happens is they spook your buyer. They overwhelm them. They spook them. So what you need to do is one of two things. You need to fix things that don't need to be fixed just to keep your buyer in the deal, or you need to give them money back at the closing just to keep them in the deal. That's why I call it bribe money, because it's not really repair money. Sometimes it is, but not often. I mean, I spent $43,000 on a house a couple of years ago, and the inspector came back and found $16,000 with the problems. It cost me, I think, $6,000 or $7,000 to keep my buyer in the deal. And I didn't do any work. I did nothing. I just gave them money at the closing. And you know what? They didn't do any of that work, because that house is across the street from my ex-father-in-law's house. And I go over there and I look, and they didn't do the work. So I know that's true. Okay. Then you actually have 3% for closing. And I'm going to tell you right now, 1% of this money is conveyance tax. What happens is in the United States, the city gets 0.5% and the state gets 0.5% for you doing the transaction as a tax. It's criminal, but they get it. And then you're going to have your lawyer or closing agent, right? You're going to have tax adjustments, right? You're going to have water. You know, all these things come in the closing. So this adds up to 15%. So I can show you closing statements in the filing cabinet behind me that I just recently done. The last one I did, it cost me $18,000 on a $200,000 house. Okay. And I feel like I'm a pretty clever guy, so I'm not being a wise ass, but I don't think you could be any less than 10% in closing costs. There's just no way to do it. It's just impossible if you do it right. I mean, just these three are 9%. right? So watch this. When I say you do an option deal, if they're willing to give you 10% after you explain to them what the closing costs are, because most people don't know that. I can't tell you how many times myself and Peter have been in the house. Peter Cocola is the rookie with me on the Flipping Houses for Rookies guy. He still says to me this day, he's amazed at the presentations we do in houses. How many people thank us for educating them on this right here. Now we have a sheet. It's called the cost to sell worksheet. So what we do is we have a worksheet, and on the top of the worksheet, they put their selling price. They pick whatever number, and we go through all these numbers with them, and they do their own math on their own house. So they see what they're going to get for a net number. Problem with the Realtor system is the Realtor system, the commissions work on the gross sale of the house, not the net sale. So they're not interested in telling you how much you're going to net. They just want to get their money, rightfully so. For a very long time, realtors would list a property and not even go find out whose name was on the deed. They wouldn't even go find out if you had the power to sell the house. So they would sign a listing agreement with you and then go sell the house and get to the closing and find out, oh, it's in your husband's name or your boyfriend's name or your dad's name. And they don't even have the right person on the contract. Or they don't ask you, how much do you owe on the property? And they'll get to the closing and find out there's not enough money to pay off the loan. They don't do that. So when we come along and say, here's the cost to sell, and here's all the numbers you're going to deal with, and you could beat some of them and some of them you can't, but it gives them a general idea of how much they're going to net. Now they have a better understanding of how much they can sell for because they know the cost to sell. So now they can adjust their price, because I'm going to tell you right now, I've done thousands and thousands. I mean, I lost track of 4,000 or 5,000 presentations, in-house presentations at somebody's kitchen table with a flip chart, a presentation pack explaining all this. Almost every person I talk to will guess at the number. Well, I really want 180, so I'll ask 210 because I don't know how much it's going to cost me. So I'm going to go high with my number and hope that I can net how much I want to net. So when you sit down with somebody and you do this cost to sell with them, you're educating them and you're helping them, because even if you don't buy the house, they could take that cost to sell worksheet and they could go sell it to somebody else. At least they know what to do. Okay, so we're going to go back. I'm kind of diverted a little bit here. We're going to go back to this option. So once you do this cost to sell worksheet with these people, and you explain that it's 15% to close and 10% is like a ridiculously low number. Now watch this. On a $200,000 house, okay, times 10% equals 20 grand. Means they're going to net 180K, right? So if they sign an option agreement with you, they sign an option agreement with you for $180,000, are they getting full retail for the house? Yeah. Right? Because if they sell for 200, fix this. If they sell for 200 and the cost to sell is 10%, they're only going to net 180. So that's full retail, because that's what the realtor would do. Now watch this. If you were to sign an option with them, an option agreement for 180, and you give them $10 down to have the option to sell this house, you go put this house on the market for $185,000, and it's worth 200, are you gonna get some interest? Are people gonna look at this house? It's $15,000 below market value. When you sign your purchase and sales contract, you tell them that you have an option for 180. And they're paying you a $5,000 fee for helping them do finding the transaction. So if you sign an option agreement for 180, sell for 185, you make $5,000 for just signing a piece of paper and finding a buyer. Maybe this is 188, so you make $8,000. Which, by the way, when you sign an option agreement with someone, what happens is legally you get an equity share in the property. That means a very small sliver, not a controlling equity share, a very small sliver of equity is in your name. And because you have an equity share, that means you're part owner. And because you're part owner, you could sell this house without a realtor license because you're a part owner of this property. And you're allowed to do this by law. The law doesn't say how much of an owner you have to be. It just says you have to be a part owner and you can sell the property. You can sell your own property. Incredible, wouldn't you say so? Where else are you hearing this kind of information so freely? Now, here's the thing. This is the second strategy of my 7 strategies, and I've got 5 more to go. And by the way, if you're watching this video and it's the first time you've seen me, make sure you go below this YouTube video in the comment section, click on the link, and get into my email sequence that will show you all 7 strategies and a few other things too, by the way. But before I go, how was that little surprise? I showed you the cost to sell any piece of property. Now, here's something that, unless you've done thousands of interviews with people, sellers in their house, nose to nose, toe to toe, like I have, you may not recognize this as so valuable. But I'm going to tell you the reason why. When you go into a house or you talk to somebody and you explain to them what the cost to sell is, they always go, oh my goodness, how come nobody ever told me that? See, what happens in the world of real estate is the realtor gets paid off of the commission from what they sell for. Doesn't matter what they owe. So for a very long time, realtors not only would sign a listing agreement and not even know if they had the owner of the house. In other words, they wouldn't go check and see who was on title, but they would never ask how much the seller owes. And then they get through all the motions of finding the buyer, going through the inspections, setting up the contracts and the loans, and getting all the closing agents and legal beagles together so they could do the closing. And then a couple days before they get to the closing, the settlement statement comes out that balances all the money going in and out of the transaction. And the seller finds out, oops, what do you mean I'm not getting a check for blah, 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 and I got to give you a check for blah, blah, blah? Because they didn't know that between 12 and 15% of their profit wasn't even theirs. It belonged to all the transaction fees, lawyer fees and closing costs and negotiating and repairs and all the things they needed to do in the transaction to get it this far. They had no idea. So when you go into a house or when you're talking to a seller and you tell them this number or go through this math with them prior to them picking their price, you are a godsend for them. You become a automatic opinion leader in real estate. And you got it all right here in this video for free. Okay, so make sure you go back, watch it again, take notes. do the math yourself. Practice in your own area. Go on Zillow or on Realtor.com or Trulia or Redfin or wherever you find houses, and actually find some houses and do the math the way we did in this video and practice. Okay? So thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions, you can, if you're in the email sequence, you can go on to the support ticket and you can get help from there. Okay? So again, thanks for watching my video. I hope I stretched your mind. Now go find a deal. I'm ready for you to make a big, large check.